Think about your dad for a second. Maybe he forgot your birthday once, or grilled you about your grades, or embarrassed you in front of your friends with some cringeworthy joke. But imagine if your old man straight up had you executed because he thought you might be plotting against him, or slaughtered your siblings out of paranoia, or declared you illegitimate and cut you out of the family entirely. Yeah, history is packed with fathers who make the average dad look like a saint. These guys weren't just bad at parenting. They turned fatherhood into a horror show where kids weren't heirs but threats to be eliminated. You exist because your ancestors survived famines, wars, plagues. But some of history's most powerful men made sure their own bloodlines paid the ultimate price for their insecurities. We're ranking 5 of the absolute worst dads in history. Number 5. Genghis Khan. Yeah, the guy who conquered half the world and fathered so many kids that millions of people today carry his DNA. Estimates say he had hundreds of children, maybe thousands, from his wives and countless concubines across his empire. Sounds impressive, right? Ultimate alpha dad, spreading his seed like a biological wildfire. But here's the reality check. Most of those kids never even met him. He was always off campaigning, slaughtering cities, building the largest land empire ever. His official sons got some attention. Jochi, Chagatai, Orgadai, Tolui. They grew up in the saddle, learning war from the master himself. Ogadai even succeeded him as Great Khan. But even there, cracks showed. Jochi's paternity was questioned because his mother Bertay was kidnapped and possibly assaulted early on. Genghis accepted him, but the doubt poisoned family relations forever. Brothers fought over it. And the rest of his offspring? Scattered across Asia, raised by mothers in harems or captured women, with zero paternal involvement. No bedtime stories, no guidance, just absentee on a continental scale. While his empire brought trade and exchange, it came at the cost of millions dead. His kids inherited a legacy of violence, expected to conquer or die. Not exactly father of the year material. Genghis was a conqueror first, dad, a very distant second. Number 4. Henry VIII. King of England, 6 wives, broke from the Catholic Church, all because he was obsessed with having a legitimate son to secure his dynasty. Bro, you already had kids. Just treat them right. Henry had 3 legitimate surviving children. Mary from his first wife Catherine of Aragon, Elizabeth from Anne Boleyn, and finally, the longed-for boy, Edward, from Jane Seymour. But his treatment of them? Brutal emotional roller coaster. Mary was his firstborn, declared Princess of Wales, spoiled rotten at first. Then Henry annulled his marriage to Catherine, calling it invalid because she was his brother's widow. Suddenly, Mary was illegitimate, a bastard. Stripped of her title, separated from her mother, forced to serve baby Elizabeth as a lady-in-waiting. Psychological warfare on a teenager. She clung to her Catholic faith, refusing to acknowledge Henry as head of the church. He threatened her with execution multiple times. Elizabeth got similar treatment after Anne Boleyn was beheaded for adultery, treason, whatever excuse Henry needed. Declared bastard too, shuffled around courts, ignored or pressured. Edward, the precious son, got better. Educated as heir, but Henry died when he was 9, leaving a sickly boy to a cutthroat council. Henry also had an illegitimate son, Henry Fitzroy, acknowledged him, gave him titles like Duke of Richmond. But even he died young at 17, no real paternal bond. Henry's paranoia and ego turned his kids into pawns. He executed uncles, aunts, stepmothers in front of them basically. No stability, constant fear your parent might divorce, behead, or disown someone close. His daughters Mary and Elizabeth became queens anyway, brilliant rulers despite the trauma. But Henry's fatherhood? A masterclass in dysfunction. Number 3. Suleiman the Magnificent. Ottoman Sultan at the height of the empire's power. Conquered Belgrade, Rhodes, most of Hungary. Built mosques, codified laws, patron of arts. Called lawgiver in his lands, magnificent in Europe. But at home? Family tragedy engineered by his own hand. Suleiman had multiple sons from different women, but the succession game was deadly. His favorite early on was Yezid Mustafa, born to Mahadevran. Talented, popular with the army, governed provinces brilliantly. By all accounts, a worthy heir. But enter Hurrem Sultan, Suleiman's beloved wife, formerly a concubine named Roxolana. She bore him several sons, including Selim, Bayezid, see Hungir. Hurrem rose to huge influence, first woman to marry a sultan in centuries. Rumors swirled she manipulated Suleiman against Mustafa, fearing he'd execute her boys if he took the throne. Ottoman tradition allowed fratricide to avoid civil war. In 1553, Suleiman summoned Mustafa to his camp during a campaign against Persia. Mustafa came loyally. Suleiman had him strangled by mutes in his tent. No trial, just execution on suspicion of rebellion, likely fabricated by Grand Vizier Rustem Pasha, Hurrem's son-in-law. The army mourned, morale tanked. Suleiman's health declined after. He later executed Bayezid too when brothers fought. Cihangir died of grief over Mustafa. Selim, the drunkard, inherited. Suleiman's love for Hurrem blinded him to justice. He killed his most capable son for palace intrigue. Tragic waste. Number 2. Peter the Great. Tsar who dragged Russia into modernity. Built St. Petersburg, crushed Sweden, westernized the nobility, created a navy from scratch. Towering figure, literally and figuratively. But his relationship with his son Alexei? Pure poison. Alexei was from Peter's first marriage to Eudoxia Lopukina, a traditional Muscovite woman Peter despised. He forced her into a convent, hated everything old Russia she represented. Alexei grew up conservative, pious, surrounded by clergy and boyars who opposed Peter's reforms. Beard shaved, European clothes, all that. Father and son clashed constantly. Peter pushed Alexei into military stuff, but the kid was bookish, sickly, uninterested. Peter threatened to disinherit him, make him a monk. Alexei half-heartedly tried to please, but resented the pressure. In 1716, Peter demanded Alexei join him in Copenhagen or renounce the throne. Alexei bolted, fled to Austria, hid in Naples under Holy Roman Emperor protection. Peter sent agents, lured him back with false promises of forgiveness. Alexei returned. Peter had him arrested, tortured for names of co-conspirators. Knout whips, the works. Alexei confessed to wishing his father's death, hoping conservatives would revolt. Senate sentenced him to death. Alexei died in prison after more torture. Cold calculation. Number 1. Herod the Great, king of Judea under Roman oversight, builder extraordinaire. Expanded the temple in Jerusalem, massive complex still revered. Fortresses like Masada, Herodium, harbor at Caesarea, turned a backwater into a prosperous client kingdom. But his family life? Paranoia-fueled bloodbath. Herod married 10 wives, but fixated on Mariam, Hasmonean princess, to legitimize his rule. Loved her obsessively, but jealous rage consumed him. Executed her on suspicion of adultery, then mourned insanely. Her sons, Alexander and Aristobulus, raised as heirs. But rumors from his sister Salome and others poisoned his mind. Thought they plotted revenge for their mother. Had them strangled in 7 BC. Another son, Antipater, from first wife, conspired against the others. Herod executed him too, days before his own death. Augustus reportedly quipped, "It'd be safer to be Herod's pig than his son, since Jews don't eat pork." Herod killed wives, brothers-in-law, anyone threatening his throne. His children grew up in terror, knowing dad might flip any moment. On his deathbed, allegedly ordered nobles arrested to be killed so Judea would mourn. Herod's dynasty splintered after him, sons ruling pieces poorly. His fatherhood wasn't neglect or absence. It was active destruction, pure tyranny over his own flesh and blood. These guys shaped empires, religions, nations. But when it came to their kids, power corrupted absolutely. Paranoia, intrigue, tradition turned fathers into executioners. You survived because your ancestors endured nature's cruelty. But these heirs face cruelty from the one person supposed to protect them. Thanks for watching. Remember, next time your dad nags you, at least he's not plotting your demise. Hit subscribe before history repeats itself or something.